especially in various cities, they have mother's milk cooperatives, and mothers who have given birth and they just have copious amounts of breast milk. They pump into bottles and take blood tests to make sure they don't have HIV or hepatitis. And it seems to be pretty clean milk, and that would be by far the better alternative. If you can find a milk bank, that would be the best. There are some acceptable plant-based formulas. Nothing comes close to mother's milk, but we've seen now 3 generations of people fed on soy infant formula grow up into normal, healthy adults. They don't have higher risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer. They don't turn into homosexuals. They don't have all sorts of aberrations. It seems to be a reasonable thing to do. And as I said, it's been on the market now for 60 years. We've seen 3 generations grow up on it. So there are some soy formulas, and I hear there's now several brands of non-soy vegan formulas coming onto the market as well. So keep looking on Amazon and on the internet. You'll do searches for non-dairy infant formulas, and most of them are acceptable. Again, if you can find mother's milk, that's by far the best.
This one is for me. Will chopping food fine before chewing help with the digestive process? It doesn't actually help with digestion, because the digestion begins with the amylase from your saliva that you are applying to the food. And in terms of breaking down a food into smaller component parts to really unleash the nutrition, that's a microscopic level thing. You can't chop that finely. However, if you have trouble with your teeth and chomping into a carrot, or chomping, ripping apart something like a tiger is difficult or painful or doesn't work for you, then absolutely chopping it fine would make sense. But it doesn't, in fact, aid with the digestion, I'm sorry to say.
Next question is for Dr. Sherzai. Is there a connection between using cast iron skillets for cooking over a lifetime in relation to Alzheimer's disease?
There's some research that shows that iron deposition in the brain can increase your risk for Alzheimer's disease and for Parkinson's disease mostly. But the amount of cooking in a cast iron skillet hasn't really been correlated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. If you cook a lot of maybe pork and beef in that skillet iron, I think that's a much bigger risk. But that said, it's best to stay away from aluminum and iron from these kind of sources as much as possible, and cook in stainless steel pans.
Great. For Dr. Clapper, intermittent fasting. Fasting for 16 to 18 hours, I find that when I do, I get lazy about when I do eat, I get lazy about 1 hour after, I'm sorry, I can't read. Few carbs, no sugar. After another 2 hours, I feel better.
Wow. We're just learning about this phenomenon of intermittent fasting. We all spend too much time eating. Eating has become a recreational activity, and we're constantly throwing stuff into our mouths. This is the mirror image of that. This is coasting as long as you can, especially when you get up in the morning, to keep your nighttime fast going through the morning hours. There comes a point that you want to break it. The question is how. This person reports a dip in their energy level when they finally start taking in some calories at noon or in the afternoon. The one question would be, what are they eating? Is there something that's causing a rapid absorption of sugar? Maybe they should have a piece of sweet potato or some rice, something that causes a more gradual increase in blood sugar. So there's lots of room to work with your particular diet and your particular body. But by and large, any time we spend not eating is a good thing, and it helps keep blood pressure down, reduces inflammation. There's lots of benefits for it. So I invite that person to be creative and an observer of what different foods, how it affects coming out of the fast, and just try some sweet foods, some fattier foods, some starchy foods. Find the one that makes you feel the best.
Next question is actually for Casey, and maybe before you answer this, you could give the audience a little bit of background on you personally. But the question is, does animal agriculture impact the local water quality from Lake O?
So the question, as I understand it, was does local agriculture
affect the water quality in Lake O?
So yeah, we come at this from a slightly different angle. We're a clean water nonprofit. We're Calusa Waterkeeper. There's a lot of contributors to the problems that we've been having. Principally, and the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. We fought very hard to have the Blue-Green Algae Task Force reconstituted. We were pretty happy that the governor, in his executive order, took us up on that and reformed the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. And the Blue-Green Algae Task Force is a largely consistent of scientists and stakeholders, which was a real breath of fresh air. So I'm not saying that they're getting everything right, but they're getting certain things right. They just came out with a consensus document about 3 weeks ago, listing agriculture as the #1 source of nutrients in our waterways in general in Florida. So that would be the Kissimmee River Basin north of Lake Okeechobee, but also our own watershed going westward from Lake Okeechobee right out to the estuaries. So we have agriculture in our zone as well. And as you know, agriculture, we love our farmers. They have been traditionally exempted from clean water regulation. The Clean Water Act basically carved out the farmers and ranchers and kind of exempted them from regulation. And that has been historically true in the United States and is also true in Florida. So while homeowners associations and new developers are supposed to, whether they do or not is another issue, supposed to clean the water before it leaves their development, it leaves their homeowners association. Agriculture is on a best management practices system, so it's a voluntary enrollment program. So about 70% of farmers and ranchers enroll in that program, and 30% don't. And there's no oversight, there's no regulatory oversight to see whether they're in compliance, even if they enroll in the voluntary enrollment program. So you can see that this is a recipe for a lot of sort of bending of the rules. So it's a long-winded way of answering the question, but yes, agriculture contributes significantly to the nutrient loading of our waterways, not only in Southwest Florida, but in Florida in general.
Great. I have something from a 13-year-old. Hi, I'm a 13-year-old girl. My name is Lucy. My mom is your biggest fan, Dr. Neal. I have 2 questions. If you have asthma, will going vegan help? And my sister has a lot of allergies. Can vegan stuff help that? She also has allergies, it sounds like, to nuts, kiwi, mango, and environmental toxins.
First of all, your parents are lucky to have you as a child, and you're lucky to have them looking out for you. I want to give this to Michael because I've heard Michael talk more eloquently than anybody about dairy and its effect on the respiratory.
Well, just after being a physician for 4 decades, I've had many patients with asthma who adopted a vegan diet for other reasons, as far as the animals or their skin. Dairy is notorious for erupting acne. And it's almost a, oh, by the way, Doc, gee, I stopped using my inhalers. Gee, my asthma got so much better. And the literature says there's absolutely no connection, but every doc up here knows clearly it's probably the proteins, it's the lactalbumin or the casein or the beta-lactoglobulin that makes the bronchial tubes constrict and put out a very thick, irritating mucus. So yes, one of the first things to do with an asthmatic child is pull the dairy out. It can't hurt, and it often makes a dramatic improvement. The other question was?
Allergies.
The allergies, same thing with the allergies as well. And once you're people should be aware that if people have a low-grade dairy allergy, which is really common, sometimes a low-grade wheat allergy, the fragments of the dairy protein come through the bloodstream. As it flows through the nasal membranes, the nasal membranes react and they get a little swollen and full of fluid and some histamines in there, and you get this engorged membrane. And then a little pollen grain from ragweed comes and lands on the membrane and releases all this histamine, and you get this big allergic reaction. Oh, that ragweed pollen! Oh, I got a terrible ragweed allergy. But really, it was the dairy in the diet or the wheat in the diet that set the stage in the membranes for the big response that got precipitated by the pollen. So before you start the shots and the masks and all that stuff, clean up the diet. That's probably what's setting the stage for the inhaled allergen to do their mischief.
I actually have some experience with this. When I was younger, about the first 6-7 years of my life, when I wasn't vegan, I would go to the hospital every month. I had lung problems every day. I had reactive airway disease basically and symptoms of asthma, and I had this big inhaler device that I would have to take every week. Ever since I've gone plant-based, I haven't had to use that device. I haven't taken any medications, and I've had like 2 colds in total since then.
So I actually want to follow up a question to Alex and Sophia. So if you didn't start out your lives as being plant-based eaters, how difficult was it to go from the typical standard American diet to a plant-based diet?
Well, it was slightly easier for us because we started as vegetarians, and also because our mom is really good at cooking.
And your parents said you had no choice anyway.
Yeah, we had no choice. Some things